My name is Melissa Jensen. I've been at a facility called Transitions of Long Island. It's obviously based on Long Island in New York, and it's an outpatient facility. So over the years, I have the opportunity of working as a really nice team with occupational therapists, physical therapists, and neuropsychologists. The primary age range is really 18 and older, but in recent years, the pediatric outpatient comprehensive programming hasn't really met the needs. So sometimes we'll see individuals as young as like 9 or 12. But again, primarily my experience has been with the adult population. And we see any type of neurological condition, and that being like a new onset. So somebody that's had a stroke, a brain injury, a new condition such as encephalitis or an onset of epilepsy. And we even see individuals with progressive conditions like Parkinson's and ALS and MS and things like that. So let me see. Okay, I think we're doing good. Yeah. So last year I spoke on different strategies and techniques that people can use and incorporate. And I tried to approach it from both the individual themselves, or if the caregiver has to help and support the person, what strategies can they use? So in thinking about how I wanted to move forward with today's event, how do I share the same information, but what is something new that I can offer to people that may have already heard this? And sometimes the tools that we use in cognitive therapy, you've heard before, and then sometimes framing it a little differently hits you in a way that's like, oh, that makes a little more sense. Let me try it, or let me revisit it. So I wanted to talk about the different influences or factors in our lives that help improve or influence our cognitive proficiency. And then I'll go over some strategies.
Melissa, I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. I don't know if your mic is on your clothing, but sometimes when you move, you sound a little different. So I'm just not sure if it's your computer you're using or a different mic.
I think I only have one mic on my computer, so I will try not to move.
Okay, yeah, whatever you do, don't move again. You sound great right now.
Okay, I will try to stay stable. All right. So just a quick review. What a speech language pathologist, also known as a speech therapist, the scope of practice is in 4 domains. So the areas that we address are language skills, cognitive skills, speech skills, and swallow skills. And I like to go over this because sometimes people are like, well, my speech is fine, why do I need a speech therapist? And we obviously cover more than what our name leads on to. So, to habilitate skills is to help somebody learn a skill that they didn't previously have. So when we talk about rehabilitation, it's somebody has lost a skill that they previously had, and we want to either rebuild the skill or improve the function when having a deficit. So what level of restoration and compensation will typically vary based on the underlying medical condition and what stage of recovery somebody is in. So since AE causes inflammation of the brain, any of these skills can be impacted. So I'd like to just look at the brain. And if you take a look, we know that oftentimes the encephalitis will impact the frontal and temporal lobes. And if you see some of the skills that those areas of the brain are in charge of, you see executive functioning, thinking, planning, organizing, problem solving, emotions, behavioral control, personality. It also impacts memory and understanding and using language. So you could see why, if somebody has autoimmune encephalitis, they may need to visit or consult with a speech therapist at one point or another. So the different types of skills, I want to review them just so that if I'm referring to them or using strategies or techniques, we know what strategies would be helpful for which skills. So orientation, that is somebody oriented to themselves, the place where they are, and time. memory, there's so many different types of memory that we use, but I think if we break it down into 3 parts, it makes it easier for people to understand. So we have long-term memory, so that's information and details from many years ago or a few months ago. We have short-term memory, which may be something that happens within the day or within recent, like a week or so. And then we have working memory skills, which is, can I hold on for information long enough just to complete this task? So they give me a code that I can log into my account to make sure that it's really me. Can I hold on to those 3 digits long enough to switch screens and add? And that would be like a working memory skill. So depending upon the person, they may have one area that's impacted or all 3 areas that might be impacted in terms of memory. Language is a very broad term. Language works on the ability to express yourself or the ability to comprehend information. So that could be either in written form, listening form. So a lot of times people come to me, and I think the most popular complaint with autoimmune encephalitis is word finding. I know what I want to say, but I just can't access the word that I want, and it's very frustrating for me. Another area is attention. So can somebody focus and attend to the task in order to be able to perform it successfully? Can you pay attention long enough in order to process the information, encode it, store it into your brain somewhere, and then be able to pull it out and retrieve it at a later time when you wish in an efficient time manner? So again, that attention that Dr. Pizzoli talked about earlier is really the foundation for our cognitive skills and ability to store information. If we can pay attention, we're at better odds of being able to recall information or follow a process that we need to complete. Executive functioning is being able to use some higher order skills. Can you plan? Can you identify what a challenge is? Can you think about strategies or techniques that's going to work? After you plan that, are you able to put them in steps and then execute them? So executive functioning really is a very involved skill that we have in order to process varied tasks throughout the day. Processing and speed, it happens on both ends. So receptively, how quickly can I process information that's coming out at me? Maybe I'm quicker at processing information when it's written. Maybe I'm better when I hear auditorily. Maybe I need those 2 fused. Maybe I can process the information more effectively when I have a written text as well as hearing the information being discussed. Processing speed can also be expressive. So somebody may need to take a little time in order to collect their thoughts, sequence them, and then be able to select the words and formulate a sentence to be able to execute that. And sometimes somebody with encephalitis may feel that they're slower or it's not coming out as quickly as they would like. So sometimes we need to work on those skills. Awareness, I think that's a really important factor when we're working on rehabilitation goals, because if somebody is not aware of their difficulties, but there is an impact, or if somebody is hyper aware or too focused on these difficulties, both ends of the spectrum can be counterproductive. So if we can find a space where, okay, we can identify these issues and we're going to work on them. What strategies are we going to use? So sometimes it's tricky to build insight, and then sometimes it's tricky to also, it's really important, it's a change, you're going to naturally feel either anxious or worried, but let's not focus too much on it because it's going to interfere with your ability to work through it. And then another cognitive skill that usually my OT colleagues will work on is visual perceptual skills, the ability to see a visual field and work within it and process the information. Okay, so what Dr. Pizzoli said earlier in terms of the stage of recovery and when somebody will meet with a speech therapist will really vary in terms of what stage they're in of their illness. So if we look at it in terms of cognitive rehabilitation, there are 3 main parties. So you have the person with the encephalitis, you have their caregivers, and then you have the therapist. So in stage 1, during the inflammation, the acute stage, really a therapist may not be involved at all, or at the very least, they just may be providing some basic education to a family member. The individual with the AE is really doing a lot of the work, and the family members on the sideline ready to jump in when they need to. As somebody progresses and they're emerging into that second stage of being able to benefit from rehabilitation, when we get to that stage, roles will change and skills will shift, sometimes dramatically and sometimes incrementally. So as the therapist, I think I have the easier role out of all three parties at this stage. I focus on one thing. My goal is to work on your cognitive communication skills, right? So I always have to bring it back to that. That's easy for me. I've been doing this for a while, so I know these strategies and techniques like the back of my hand. It's still an important role. However, we have two other people that are in this party, and their roles may be shifting without even any warning. So somebody is getting stronger, they have autoimmune encephalitis, and they have lots of work to do, they're doing the heavy lifting. The caregiver is ready to like support them. It's like, okay, you're lifting a heavy weight, I'm going to be there to help you. If the weight is too heavy, I'm going to support you, I'll lift up the weight again so it doesn't weigh too much on you. And when somebody's going to need that, the timing of that support is so unpredictable. So somebody with the condition themselves has a better feel for where they are at times. You know, if they have good insight, they'll say, okay, my skills are a little bit stronger, I'm not feeling as tired, I think I could try X, Y, and Z. I think the trickier role during this phase is the caregiver. It's very tricky because you don't know how the person is processing information internally. You don't know when they're ready to take that step. You don't know when you are ready to take a step back and let them try. And the way I try to connect to this is my caregiving role. Like as a mother of a 9-year-old child, I identify with myself as a helicopter parent. And a helicopter parent, for those of you that are not familiar with the term, is a mother or a father, I should say, I shouldn't, a parent that may hover or be always looking over and making sure that they can kind of swoop in and protect their little one and make sure that they don't get hurt or that they don't experience anything that may be unpleasant or negative. And we're always there. So I know it has that negative connotation to it because it's too protective or it's too interfering. And even with that, I can still identify with it. I'm aware because if I'm aware that it could be interfering or cause issues, then I can pull back, right? So if I know that's my tendencies to be there and overhelp and assist with the process, if I'm aware of it, I can pull back and I can manage it. Just this week, I got a phone call. My son's school, some girls at school said something. He was upset. He was crying. He came home. I rushed home from work. I put on like my helicopter piloting outfit. I swooped in and I found out what was the situation, what happened. I talked about what you could do next time. We stopped the conversation. I stepped away. I'm like, oh, I really need to tell him X, Y, and Z just in case it comes up again. He should do this, and this will help with the situation. I come back in, I talk about it again, and you know, in theory, I know that I can't protect him. I know he needs to like be out there and interact and learn how to work with his peers. But emotional pilot, helicopter mom was like, nope, I gotta make sure that he has these techniques. And finally he's like, Mom, I just don't want to talk about it anymore. And I was like, oh, you're totally right. I need to like step out of helicopter and you got this. I did my job. I explained my worries and I did what I needed to do. And I feel like it's such a big thing is to try a big caregiver role that we don't know where to go. Like, do we zoom in? Do we step back? Do we actually get out and not do the pilot anymore? And I see this struggle with caregivers with everybody that comes through my door. But my favorite thing is when I work with somebody that early on, the caregiver has to, there is no option. They have to take the lead and they have to bring that person to therapy and they have to say X, Y, and Z is an issue. We're working towards this. And I love it when it switches. And it's awkward and it's uncomfortable at times, but it is such a beautiful thing to have like, oh, these skills are strong enough. We don't need as much support here. We still need you. Let's make that clear, but we don't need you to support and reinforce those things. Let's give some space to help reinforce and create some more independence. And it's a really delicate and very awkward dance that I think the three of us that are involved in this cognitive rehab scene have to balance and have to be open communicators about.